Yes, welcome to my channel. This is teacher Kadonji, the teacher of literature in English, the friend of Mr. Tingatinga Africana, Mr. Gordon Yohana Bayalimo, and Reginald Bishoza, aka Teacher on Duty. Welcome, dear listener and observer of little works. I have brought you analysis of poetry, Song of Lawino by Okot Tech, that teaches about the issue of cultural interference between African culture and Western culture and African identity. Okot Tech wrote this poetry with 25 poems, 13 poems showing Lawino's complaints about her husband Okot. Okot Tech teaches readers of poems about cultural interference. He is targeting today's scholars as they reject their traditions and customs and do not want to be chosen by their parents. When today's youth get an education, they claim to be more unique than others and do not want to work together with their peers. When young people are baptized and join the Christian religion, they consider themselves to be very special and call their fellow pagans. They have no religions, and they are witches. Okot Tech wrote to warn today's youth and generation about the cultural interference. Let us use knowledge and the experience to live well with people. Okot Tech teaches us to love our wives, a message for the marriage. Okot Tech teaches us to love our traditions and customs such as African dances. Okot Tech educates us to take care of our traditions. He also teaches us that conflicts are not good in our society. Dear listener, Okot Tech has used the title Song of Lawino to raise the Lawino woman on African culture and African identity. He has also used the title Song of Lawino to show a woman who is capable of standing up for her husband, who has different ideas. The title of Lawino's song is a feminism title that elevates women over their men with Western ideas. Okot Tech poems are modern poems because there are an equal number of verses in each stanza. This classification of poetry according to form, but according to content, it is in narrative poems or poem. It narrates the lives of Lawino, Okot, and Clementine, a white woman. Lawino is an African woman. This woman believes in African tradition and customs like traditional dances. Okot is an African man, but he has received a Western education and he looks at him as a Westerner. He does not believe in African culture. Okot is a traitor to Lawino. After studying in Europe, he returned with a white woman, Clementine, but he said she was his classmate and not his lover. Dear listener, we learn a lot through this poetry. Let us love our culture and stop Western culture. Okot Tech has shown main themes for each poem. Let us look at the first poem. My husband's tongue is bitter. There is a betrayal and ignorance for Okot. Okot insults Lawino, the witch. He does not know how to read, even is not baptized. We also find the theme of religion and education, such as Okot. Another theme is awareness. For example, Lawino is careful with his traditions. The second poem is called The Woman with Whom I Share My Husband. Here we find themes of betrayal, hypocrisy, womanizer. For example, Okot has decided to marry another white woman, who is Clementine. Lawino praises the beauty of Clementine and tells us that Clementine's nipples are standing like a thorn, but they are just compressed. The third poem is called and not the dance of white people. Here we find the theme of African dance. Lawino tells us about the drums of the Achol tribe. He can't play Western music or dance. We also find more decay in this poem. Western women play with their parents. Dear listener, even Lawino's other poems describe the theme of awareness, identity, true love and untrue love, respect, unity, ignorance. For example, the fourth poem, My Name Blow Like a Horn Among the Paila. The fifth poem is called The Graceful Giraffe Cannot Become a Monkey. The sixth poem is called The Mother Stone Has a Whole Stomach. The seventh poem is called There Is No Fixed Time for Breastfeeding. The eighth poem is called I'm Ignorant of the Good World in the Clean Book. The ninth poem is called From the Mouths of Which River. The 10th poem is called The Last Safari to Pagak. The 11th poem is called The Buffaloes of Poverty Knock the Peoples Down. The 20th poem is called My Husband Houses Dark Forest of Books. The last poem is called Let Them Prepare the Malakwang dish. This poet talks about Lawino's complaint to her husband, Okot, who does not love her and does not care about her. Dear listener, the person of this poem or poetry is Lawino complaining about her husband, Okot, who is affected by Western culture and despises African culture. The tone of this poem or poetry is satirical or ironic because Lawino shows iron when he praises Clementine, a beautiful woman. The other side is sad because Lawino is hurt to see her husband has changed. Mood of the poet is sympathetic. I, the reader of these poems, am sorry to see Lawino in a state of despair with her husband. Let us look at the most important features or poetic devices, which there are three poetic devices. Number one is structural devices, number two sound devices, and number three sense devices. Let us start with structural devices. There are many stanzas in one poem. Some poems have one stanza in this poem. Also, verses are meant in this poem. Repetition of words like my husband repeated in several poems. Also, punctuation marks used in this poem like comma and full stop. The second poetic device is sound devices. Example rhymes are irregular, does not follow the similar sound at the end. Also, the rhythm is irregular. Alternation, assonance, and consonance employed in this poem. Poetic number three, sense devices like symbolism. Example in the first poem, my husband's tongue is bitter. The word tongue stands for language. Also, another sense device is sarcasm. Example, you insult me, you laugh at me, you say I don't know the letter R. Another sense device is hyperbole. In a second poem, example, her lips are red hot. There are many sense devices in this poem. This poetry is still relevant today. There are women who have a stand like Lawino. Dear listener, this poetry published in 1963 after independence of Uganda. Okot Bibtek was born in 1931 and died in 1982 at the age of 51. Okot Bibtek was a Moila national levels footballer. I have reached the end of the analysis of this poetry. I ask you to subscribe to this channel. My name is Teacher Kariko Njige, the friend of Mr. Tingating Africana, Mr. Godon, Johanna Bayalimo, and Reginald Bishop. Thanks for listening to me.